Brandon Beals' kids. And so I'm excited to introduce you to them. So we'll start with Judah. Go ahead, introduce yourself, and we'll just work our way down.
My name is Judah, and yeah.
Well, where do you go to school, man?
I go to Northwest University. It's on his shirt.
Oh, okay.
My name is Elijah. I am a student at the UW. Sco Dogs.
I'm Rachel, and I'm a first grade teacher and an alumni of the University of Washington. Go Dogs.
So I'm excited about this interview because we get to see our parents all the time, but I would love to hear behind the scenes a little bit. But first, you guys all grew up in church your whole entire life. So what is, like, your first memory of church? Like, do you remember your first experience of church? Because you probably felt like you were at church all the time. Judah?
Yeah. The first one that comes to mind, actually, was we were at the Everett campus, and they were encouraging people to give through the tithe wrap. So the reason it stuck with me so much is because it was so entertaining.
Nice.
Nice. Mine is like way back when we were at Jackson High School, like the first time. And I remember
when you got yelled at.
Yeah.
I knew where this was going.
I remember that. Well, I mean, like we were at the church. We'd have to be there for like setup, tear down, all the millions of services, and you know, like we're antsy little, like I don't even know. We were probably like first graders, or like we were like really little. So like we were really antsy and like just like to walk around the school, right? Like normal. And I remember it was with the Limbecks, so like Joe and Sam, also pastors' kids. And I remember we like went so far in Jackson High School, like while service was going on or while teardown was happening, that like our parents literally could not find us in the giant high school. And so I remember being outside. Like we had walked literally through the school all the way outside. I don't know why. We were just not smart. And I could hear like my mom yelling to us from like the other side of the school outside. And they found us, and it wasn't a pleasant, you know,
Right home.
scolding. And
I remember that.
But yeah, it's
I don't think I was there because I'm an
memorable.
angel.
Yeah, basic.
Let's think. I wish I had very many memories, but I have a horrible memory. I do remember specifically one memory of being in like our very first office spaces, like before we were even in a school or anything. And I remember it was very small, and I don't think that we had chairs, or there was something about there was no chairs involved. Maybe it was in the kids' space, but it was really sad for a kid to be playing in there. But yeah, I would say that. And then Jackson, I definitely remember more of that because I was a little bit older, and I got baptized there the very first time we were in Jackson, and that was Morgan and Nicole's first Sunday. So I remember that, like, that's probably my first, like, real vivid memory was getting baptized. And that was back when they would make the people that were getting baptized come on stage before, like, even bringing everybody outside, and we had to, like, hold the microphone in front of everybody and tell, like, our story. Super intimidating.
Yeah.
I was, like, 7, so good stuff.
Yeah. No, I remember that. So what is it like growing up as your parents being the lead pastors and you being PK? You know, like, has that been hard? Was that like hard pressure on you? Was it just go with the flow? Church is all that you've ever known? Was it fun? And just curious what it's like growing up as a PK. Because my mom tells me stories because my grandparents were pastors. And so she would tell me stories of what it was like being a PK. But I was interested if it's changed a lot since then. So, Elijah?
I mean, there's like a lot of it is like you just can't explain it. Like that's why like for me, like when I meet another PK like outside of Canyon Creek, I'm always like
Canyon Creek.
I mean Venture. Jeez.
Awkward.
School. Okay, sorry, I haven't been here.
We'll cut that out.
Well, okay. Well, back when it was Canyon Creek, I guess that's that's like I guess when I would meet people then too. It's like you have like a special bond with that person like instantly because it is kind of hard to explain the I don't know like the things that happen when you're a PK and like I don't know, it's interesting, but you're definitely under like a different lens than I'd say like the average person is because you kind of are like a resemblance of your church and like you've been raised up in the church and like you obviously want to be like a good image of what the church represents and stuff like that. So I don't know, you can touch on
I would agree with that. And also, I feel like it's unique because I think many pastors' kids, they like, not to say that pastors like bounce around from church to church, but I don't think it's common for like kids to be like basically raised in one church. Like, there's people that were here from like the very start of this church 15 years ago that basically watched us from like when we were really, really little to like who we are now. And so I feel like it's even different than a lot of PK's experiences because people just know us so well. And also, I'd say it's super weird because people know us so well. So they like almost feel like they're, I don't know, that they know us even though we don't really know them. So I can't even count how many times people have come up to me and been like, Rachel, how's UW going? When I was still at UW. How's the sorority? Like, how's being a teacher, all this? And I literally go to my brothers after. No offense to all you out there, but I'm like, I have no idea what that person's name was. Never talked to them in my life. So that's just being honest.
Yeah.
You just are very under a spotlight. So.
Yeah. Did that happen often? Like, did anyone ever come up to you and say an embarrassing story that maybe your parents said to you, and you're like, how did you hear
Well, I
about
think
that?
this is a common thing with like everyone, but I think especially with us because like my parents have like ministered to so many people for a long time. It's always the stories of like when you're like a kid or like I changed your diaper when you were a kid. I'm
So
like,
many people
I don't
say
know
that.
who you are. Like that's just weird that you're telling me that now that I'm like 19 years old, but like okay. But it's
We have a
definitely like
bond.
because like so many
Thanks.
people knew us as like babies too and like growing up that there's all those people that like once we moved here we don't have as much of like an immediate interaction with because like we haven't seen them in forever. So those are like the funny ones where I'm like they'll like literally say something like that and I'm like I don't know how to respond. I'm like awesome,
Nice.
like good job for being nice. I guess I don't know.
Well, I've known you since you were 2, and I never changed your diaper, so there's that. So.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
Thanks. Yep. I was gonna say never mind.
No, go ahead. Say it.
The thing that sticks out to me the most is growing up. It was cool, like being able to go home and kind of like dive deeper and ask questions to my dad about like the sermon he preached and kind of have more of a deeper conversation of what was going on. So I found that super helpful.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I also want to point out that I feel like there's a stigma about a pastor's kid. Like, I remember all the time to people when I would meet them and they'd find out I was a pastor's kid, they'd be like, oh, so, like, you're in that kind of a family. Like, it's super strict probably, right? And I'm like, honestly, if you met – this is not like to sound – this is not in a negative way. In a very positive way, if you met my parents outside of, like, church, you'd probably have no idea that they're a pastor. Not because they're, like, not living their faith, but just because they don't shove it down your throat. They're just, like, normal people. And they're just, like, my dad, anybody that knows him well outside of church is, like, you are just the weirdest person and, like, just a huge goofball and, like, you love horror movies and, like, Vegas. And you have tattoos all over your body and a motorcycle. Excuse me? Like,
Yeah.
basically boys would always be afraid to date me because of that. But, yeah, so I feel like that's something to point out is, like, yes, we were under a spotlight for sure, and, like, people were always watching us, but also it wasn't like my parents would preach to us at home unless we, like, needed to be scolded or something. But for the most part, it was just, like, my parents are just really fun people.
Yeah, I've gone on vacation with both your parents to Hawaii twice. I've gone to Vegas with your dad. What is it like, though, as a family to go traveling? Like, what is that experience like? Because I was always curious. I want to know if it's the same. Like, when I go to Vegas with Brandon, it is go, go, go nonstop. It is like no quit. He was up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, ready to go.
Whoa, that's
he
early.
Eats super quick. I don't know if he eats super quick with you guys, but he was done. I was like, I have only had one bite in my mouth. So, like, I'm not ready to go yet. No, let's go. I'm like,
Okay, here's the thing. Our vacations are never, like, chill.
Ever.
You're never
No.
just vibing on a beach. I mean, like, occasionally, like, you'll have, like, a couple hours to do that, but it's always, like, there's a hike that we should do. Like, even if you're in Hawaii, like, the
Always
most laid-back place
hiking.
in the world.
Why?
You're always hiking. You're always, like, doing weird, like, movie tours that aren't actually movie tours. That's a story for another time. Like, just weird things. But the thing, like, the reason why we always feel rushed, which isn't always a bad thing, but it's when, like, my dad's making the decisions, and it's because he doesn't like to tell people ahead of time what we're doing. Or, like, okay, guys, we're leaving in, like, an hour, so be ready in an hour. It's always, like, he wakes up, and he'll wake all of us up, and he's like, all right, guys, we're leaving in 5 minutes. And we're like, dude, what the heck? We, like, just got up.
And then 5 minutes go by, and
That's
he's
accurate.
like, why is nobody ready? We need to go right now. We're 2 minutes late. We're like, you gave us 5 minutes to get ready, and I'm a girl. I have to, like, do my makeup. So, and then he'll come in and take pictures of you while you're sleeping and post it on Instagram. He did that to me a few times. I would get very triggered about that. But
Judah and I are always sharing a bed on, like, every vacation, which now
And
that
he's
we're
forever
older is
butthurt.
a little bit annoying, but, like, at least we're on a vacation, so
That's awesome.
I
No.
can't complain.
Judah now is the kid that's like, I'd rather just sleep on the floor with a single pillow and no blankets than sleep in the same bed as him.
I don't like sleeping with other people.
But yes, my parents we don't really plan ahead when we're going on a vacation. Like, basically, you show up and we're like, what should we do today? And normally it's what he just explained. My dad will be like, all right, we gotta go swimming with sharks in 2 minutes. So if you're not in the car, you're not coming. And you're like, oh gosh. But we get a lot of activity in. So we have lots of memories because of it. And some memories are like, why did we possibly spend money doing that? Because my dad made the decision. And sometimes he chooses really weird things to do. And everybody's like, you need to ask somebody else for advice.
But those are the most memorable ones, or the weird ones.
That's true.
Also, the number one thing that I hear on every family vacation from my mom, just go with the flow. Just go with the flow, Elijah. Just go with the flow. Every single time, because I just want to know, like, what we're doing, like, where are we going? Just go with the flow. Just go with the flow. I'm like, okay, I'm trying, but, like, you know, that's what I hear a lot.
I was convinced that Brandon asked me to go on trips with him because of Maggie, because she's so go with the flow, and I'm like, I need to know. I need to see this itinerary. What are we doing today? You know, and so
No itinerary.
yeah, none. So, how has it been? Like, have there been anything that they've done to embarrass you on like on a Sunday morning or a church event or something like that that has embarrassed you to where you're like, oh, I wish they wouldn't have done that?
I mean, yeah.
Pictures?
Well, yeah, like Rachel was saying with those pictures, that'd be pretty rough. But like, even just like sermon illustrations, you're often not depicted in like the greatest way during a sermon illustration. Like, there's one story in particular, I don't even want to bring it up because then people are gonna remember it, that like was totally false. Like, this was not what
Yeah, well,
happened
now
at
you
all.
have to say it.
Oh yeah, clear the
Okay,
clear
there's
the
this
air.
story of like, I forget, I don't even like remember the context, but like I pretended like I was gonna like, I had like a fork and I was like pretending to like I grabbed Judah's arm and did this. And my dad thought it was like real or something when I was like clearly joking. I'm not a sociopath. But when he gave the sermon, he gave it in a way where it was like, that's what I was actually doing. And then everyone would be like, Elijah, like, why'd you try to stab Judah with a fork? I'm like, what the heck did he just share during the sermon? Because I was like younger, so I wasn't in the service. Things like that are like embarrassing, but like also frustrating because that one wasn't true. But like, yeah.
If you haven't realized, Brandon Beals is the most dramatic human ever. Like, honestly, people are always like, Rachel, how are you so dramatic? I'm like, have you had any conversation with my father? Because he is the biggest drama queen, and he exaggerates so much. Not saying that these stories aren't true, but sometimes he'll tell a story on the platform, and I'm like, I don't recall being a part of that, but somehow I was, because he embellishes a little bit. He's just a storyteller.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes that will happen, and you're like, what the heck, Dad? Judah, what do you think?
Pass.
Yikes. I also want to say, I think I don't get embarrassed by his sermon illustrations because I like being talked about. So honestly, I get kind of butthurt that if nobody's noticed, my dad always talks about the two of them, and then everyone around, it's become a running joke in the young adults. Like, my dad will talk about, oh yeah, my kids, like Elijah, he just graduated from high school and was like on the soccer team, and Judah, he was all this, and like, everybody's like, Rachel, he didn't mention you. And I'm like, yep, again, it always happens. He just doesn't
Because
mention
for a
me.
while it was just you. Because
Well,
you had the limelight for a while.
I like being talked about.
Now it's our turn.
But what's embarrassing is his style on the platform. Sometimes he wears things that I'm like, you need a personal stylist, because why are you possibly wearing those two things together?
David and I, we've talked to him about that, and he was like, no.
Yeah.
We're like, it will be ready for you, like in your room, personal stylist, and so, yeah.
It's pretty bad. And
I know,
some of the
that's
shoes he
thing,
has.
is like, there's so many people that agree with us that his style just ain't always it. And like, everyone will tell him that and even say, dude, Brandon, I'll pay for your clothes if like you just wear something else. And he's just so stubborn about it. He's stubborn about a lot of things. But like that
I'm surprised
in particular,
that your mom hasn't like tried to.
Oh,
because
she has.
she's very stylish.
she has. I feel like
And
we're
so-
all pretty stylish, but like
Yeah.
he's just doing his own thing, which respect, I guess. But
The best is when you overhear the conversation of my mom telling my dad to change his outfits for Sunday morning.
Oh, that would
Especially
be a
It's
fun
like, you
shoes.
can't wear that. You cannot wear those things together.
That's
So
yeah,
bad.
Do you know how often like he'd be like, Elijah, like check out these new shoes, and like it'll be like a box of Jordans, and I'm like, oh, these are about to be tight, and then he opens them and they're like orange or something, and I'm like,
Yeah.
these had
You
so
can't
much potential.
wear those.
You didn't have to get like the Gatorade Nikes. They're weird, okay? They're like blue and orange. Like they don't fit you. I'm sorry.
Okay, but it's such a thing that he'll be like, somebody else bought me these. Somebody bought me these shoes, all right? And I'm like, okay, well, tell them to return them and get a different color, please. I beg you. But
That's funny.
that's the one thing that he's embarrassing about. Everything else, he's great. Wonderful guy.
Well, I know that there's a preconceived notion with being a PK, and you guys are as normal as can be, and you love God, and that just goes to show what amazing, parents they are as well. Seeing how well adjusted that you guys are, and I've gotten to see you guys grow up over the years and everything, and just you guys allow that stereotype that people think of pastors' kids, that you guys have broken all of that. And I think it's a true testament to who your parents are. And I wanted people to get to see you because they hear the stories, in sermons and stuff. And so I thought it would be a fun thing to get to highlight you guys, and you get to share your side of the story. So,
Can we share our favorite memory?
yes, I would love that real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Well, I wanted you guys to go first.
You go first.
I
I'm
just
still
wanted to-
thinking.
Yeah, I gotta think. You just brought this up all
Oh,
on the
this
spot.
was on the question list. This is why you got to do your research.
go.
I just want to make sure that it's clear that being a pastor's kid for me was like just some of the best memories I've ever had in my entire life. Like, I have loved it. Yeah, you're under a spotlight, but it's so fun getting to be like such a big part of everything that's happened, and being able to like hear all the behind the scenes, even though for a while my parents didn't tell us anything. So we'd be like, wait, that's happening, after somebody else heard on a Sunday morning. But it's just really cool to have been able to see like the entire process and be through it all. And so I want to say that. But my favorite memory, I have about a million, because I could either say like all of my memories in the youth ministry, because we would go on trips, we did like human videos, those were a blast. Interview with the Devil was a great time. But I really think that my favorite memory was being I wasn't even an owner, but I would go to the owner meetings because I was like, they can't stop me. I'm the pastor's kid. I'm the worst. Anyways,
I would
but
do
going
that
to the
too.
owners meeting right before the owners meeting where everybody decided that they wanted to do the capital campaign for this building was literally the coolest experience I've had in the entire 15 years. Like, I mean, obviously being here is also a great experience, but because I was there for the behind the scenes and I heard my parents always just like getting really nervous about what was going to happen and not just, I don't know, like discouraged and not really thinking that everybody would be willing to do such that a huge commitment like that. And so they weren't really expecting it to go that way. And then if you weren't at that meeting, basically it was just one person after another raising their hand and being like, we have to do this because this is like monumental. This is what we've been working for. And meanwhile, I'm in the corner like crying because I was like, this is so huge. And so that was my favorite
Yeah,
memory.
the way that your dad talks about that story, he said that he sat you guys down for dinner, right, in Vegas.
Yep.
And
Jude actually wasn't there.
Yeah,
I don't know where you were.
but you got to like, and that's just being part of it, right? Like
Yeah.
you were very much a part of this church.
Oh
as
yeah,
well. And
he
so
definitely sat us down and was like, I just want to warn you guys, like I don't really know what's gonna happen next because we're basically at a standstill and like if the church doesn't agree to this, like I don't really know what the future even holds for our church at that point, like blah blah blah. And so we were just so sad seeing that and then watching the church just rally together was literally the coolest thing I've ever seen. So that's mine.
Mine's kind of similar, actually. First off, I agree. Being a PK rocks, despite its some issues. Like, it's totally the best experience. But anyways, my favorite experience, kind of similar, was even more of an inside scoop because I was living at the house at the time and you weren't. But but I remember, like it was after like all those like really real conversations with each other of like we don't know what's going to happen. Like, we're believing that God's going to provide a miracle for this church building, but, like, in the end, like, we don't know what his plan is exactly. And so, like, that was kind of nerve-wracking for all of us. The house was, like, very tense, like, all the time, like, reasonably so. Everyone was stressed out, you know, like, because Judah and I preparing for, like, colleges and things like that, and the building, like, all this stuff. It was just really stressful. I remember, like, the first time, like, the church building's like loan got like declined, or I don't really know the full story, but I remember like that was like super heavy and like that just really sucked. And then it was really looking like we were really unsure. And I just remember like one morning, because when I first heard that the loan got declined, that was also in the morning before I went to school. And I remember like being super sad. And then like obviously a while later, I remember getting up and I like went into my parents' bedroom and like because I was grabbing something from their bathroom. And they were both awake, and, like, they were really ecstatic about something, and I don't know why. And I was like, what's going on? And they were like, the bank just accepted our loan. And I was like, no way. Like, it was so intense that, like, I didn't even know how to feel. I was just like it was, like, too surreal to, like, believe. And this was, like, in the morning, like, 7 a.m. before school. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, now I need to go to school. But, like, it was the best day ever because, like, the whole ride to school, I was, like, worshiping on the way to school. I was like, this is the craziest thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to work out type of thing. But.
I think, sort of adding on to that, honestly, probably one of my favorite memories that still sticks with me today is when it was after these experiences, our first, like, worship gathering in the church. It was just, like, a person playing guitar, and then David was singing, and my dad was just like proclaiming so much stuff over this building that was just like that was super powerful. I was like,
Was it before the building was really fully finished?
yeah, it was
Okay.
like the stage had just got finished, and then my dad, and then like people were standing on the stage, and they were just, it was good.
A lot of really cool experiences, and you have gotten to see behind the scenes the whole entire way. And so I see your parents in each and every one of you, and so you guys are amazing people. And so that's all that we have for today for the Venture panel. I hope that you have gotten to know them a little bit beyond the stories on a Sunday morning. And so go up, introduce yourself before saying that you've changed some diapers. And that might be good. And
Always
guess.
remember to tell us your name before you talk to us so
Yeah.
that we just remember.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So, and no, that's real. Because I even get that as a pastor. Like, oh, you should have known me. And we've never been introduced. How would I know you? Like, I don't stalk people on Facebook. So, yeah. Anyway, we hope that you have a good evening, and we'll see you soon.